Hello, and of course, this is a commentary for Wolverine Adamantium Rage! I'm sorry, allow me to repeat that. Adamantium Rage! One of my lesser-known memes. I just noticed this. I think my bear is actually on the couch on the sofa there with Spoonie. The origin of this really comes down to me wanting to do a crossover with Spoonie and me wanting to talk about this video game I played as a kid. Of course, Wolverine Adamantium Rage. And I wrote it with expressly the idea that Spoonie didn't have to do much for it. So while it is technically a crossover, it's much more designed to be mostly me talking about a video game, because I figured we'd all be tired out from the brawl and everything. And right here we have my parody recreation of his theme song with Nightcat in place of What's-Her-Face from Final Fantasy X. I'm sure I'll get 1,000 comments asking me that. And really all the clothes that I'm wearing in it are just stuff that I pulled out of my dresser drawer, just trying to emulate everything that Spoonie wears, because Spoonie wears a different outfit. At the same time, while this is meant to be a mostly me video, it's meant to be completely in tribute to Spoonie's video at the same time. I recreate the opening sequence. The cold opening here is meant to emulate his style at the time, where it seemed like it was very off the cuff, telling a personal story of how he encountered a certain game or movie and how it affected his life. And in this case, I was telling my history of how I encountered the game and my history with Sega Genesis, including the Sega Genesis that I got from Cold Guy. I guess he just had brought along a bunch of Sega Genesises, Genesai, whatever, and he gave a Model 3 to Benzai, at least I'm pretty sure it was Benzai, and he gave me a Model 2, which was very nice of him. I hadn't had a Sega Genesis in so many years. It was just cool to have one again, and I used that Genesis for a 90s kid in his early days as well. Just holding it. I really should recreate that or something. So yeah, that's the origin of this. Kind of an homage to Spoonie while allowing him to not have to do much for it. Because I was a really big fan of Spoonie at the time, and I was still relatively new to video reviewing. But I enjoyed it so much, and I enjoyed Spoonie's video so much. This was my way of saying thanks, and I kind of snuck in just little references here and there. It was not supposed to be like a full-on parody kind of thing. It was just like for example, later on we'll have the get to the choppa joke, which was more. I hadn't seen Predator at that time yet. But I really enjoy. But since he had mentioned "Get to the Choppa" a couple of times in his show, I figured that would be a cute way of doing so. This game is really weird. Now, the Super Nintendo version is apparently very different from this and has more story to it. And people expect me to be kind of a comic book expert, and really I'm not. I know a lot about comics. I know a lot of history. I know a lot of details, but I wouldn't call myself an expert because there's still so much I don't know, so much I haven't read that while I'm familiar with a lot of it, it's still daunting even for me, just some of the stuff. And the X-Men in particular is just something really, really unbelievably big in terms of stuff to go through. And yes, I had some really frustrating times with this game, both as a kid and trying to recreate the footage. Now, as I said, I didn't have an actual Genesis at the time, so this is all emulator, and I tried to be honest with that at the beginning. But in retrospect, I know more. I'm a wiser person now, so I do regret a lot of the things that I did for this, even though I freely admit doing so in the video, like using using Game Genie codes, using an emulator, though the emulator was the easiest way to capture footage for the game. And the Genesis emulator was really good about that. I really enjoyed the fact that it did that, and it made game reviews a lot easier for whatnot. But I still didn't really do them all that often. The only other one that I did was the other crossover Spoonie, the Blackest Night special. But this game haunted my childhood, and it was really frustrating. Even my brother had difficulty with it, and it seemed like, and when I was watching him at the time, he always seemed like he was having an easier time with it, but he was having the same difficulties I was having. In that, the controls are pretty good. In terms of like the worst Genesis games ever, it sure as hell is nowhere near the worst. This is actually pretty good for what it was, but it's just the little frustrating details that irritate you as a kid. I should note that Spoonie never actually played the game himself, and I don't really have the footage or anything up during this. In fact, my script is in front of it. The idea was to make it nice and simple. We had just spent the day doing crossover reviews for whatnot. We recorded the first Warrior review, and we had just gotten back from basically kind of a rap party for the Brawl. Everyone was just assembled in I think it was Doug's or Mashad's room, and we were just all shooting the breeze, drinking soda, just having a good time. But then I reminded them, yeah, we got to film this, we got to get it over with. So it was okay. Spoonie was tired, but since he didn't really have to do much other than sit in the background and play on Mars Girl's DS, made things a lot easier. Those stupid, annoying little robots. You can never time them just right to kill them. And even as a little kid, even the twitch reflexes there, it just was not present. It was just difficult. And that's what irritated me so much. It's just one of those things that it just sticks with you. Oh, and that time limit. I never understood how this time limit worked and why the hell there was a time limit in this game when you have the ability to regenerate over time. I kind of wanted to also emulate here's another subtle thing. Spoonie's always drinking sodas in his videos, so I wanted to do, like, this is going to be all my style now, and then I drink a Coke. Ah, yes, and here we are. We're coming up on the meme that grew forth from this. And I admit I was probably influenced a little bit by the angry video game nerd in this regard. Adamantium rage! That's the Kirby plushie that Mars Girl had. Punching a Superman comic I brought with me, throwing the Sega Genesis to the ground. Just punching random things. A lot of this stuff is just improv. You just come up with it on the spot, try to think of it. Like, I had the idea of, like, crushing the soda can against my head, going, ow! And this part is dubbed in because it was at night. I didn't want to wake up anybody else in the hotel. And people always ask me where the hell the nerd punch came from in my theme song, and this is where it comes from. And I think that helps cement... I think the nerd cameo there, which we filmed during the Brawl, and he was very nice about that. Just being willing to do that. We just had a free moment in the Brawl. I had Kyle Justin running the camera. We did 2 takes. I liked the second one better. And it was just easy. I just asked him, okay, I want you to punch me. Which I commented on at MagFest. I was at his Q&A, and I just stood up and asked, yeah, hi, I'm that comic reviewer you punched 2 years ago. But yeah, the cheat codes, I feel really bad about having to resort to them, and because it really is cheap. And the game should not be difficult enough to have to resort to it. And it is really difficult, and you should be able to do it on your own. And I guess if I kept sticking to it, I probably could. But I just grew so frustrated with this thing. Made no better is that you beat the boss, you have that one guy with a gun who you can't time it out right. It's just really difficult, really frustrating. I keep saying that over and over again. But that's Adamantium Rage for you. It brings about the rage. And yeah, I had to read up on the Wikipedia page to learn that I could climb the walls. And I was like, what? Since when? I got to the chopper.
So at one point you have to fight a clone or a robot or something.
Yeah, Wolverine, clone. People corrected me on a lot of the stuff that I missed because, again, I'm not as up-to-date on Wolverine's history as others. And there's no pattern to his attacks. It feels really cheap. Like, just through sheer luck that you managed to do it. And I looked up passwords that allowed you to skip to the next level. And sure, you don't get any points for it, but who the hell cares about points? And this bit, oh my god, I almost ended the review right here just because of how difficult it was to get through these guys. I was really trying my best, but I was using save states, but my save state life was was very low. I managed to get it back up again through a second run through against the robot Wolverine, managed to get it higher up, but then, oh my god, facing off against all these guys, they just whittled your life down steadily, because they're like 4 of them all in a row, they take multiple hits to kill, and again, on the easy setting, and you just basically just pushing them back, so you have like 2 or 3 people shooting you at once, and there's no easy way to do it. And yeah, of course, Spoonie right here, he's not playing the game. I just told him to to act frustrated playing a game, and he came up with his own stuff, including him slicing his wrist with the hotel key and then choking himself on, I think it was the zapper, because we had used the zapper earlier for the Warrior review. He just came up with it all on the spot, and that's the great thing about Spoonie. He says he's not very good at improv, or just speaking unscripted, but damn, he is good. This is also the only review of this is also a twofer for me. This is counted as an official episode of Atop the Fourth Wall. Every other crossover is considered a special to me. This is the only one that is actually an official episode. I think it's like episode number 34. And I think that's because at the time it was just like everything, and I had to devote time to it. Though I will say, editing a movie and editing video game stuff is always easier for me to do than to edit the comic book stuff. It takes less time because I can just shoot the breeze and let the footage do the talking for the empty bits, whereas I have to for any time I do comic reviews, I have to individually move all the panels around, and it's a lot more involved and takes a lot more time to do versus the footage, which I just let speak for itself. Yep, here's another one, using another Spoonie joke right there.
This is the easy setting. If I didn't have cheat codes on, I'd be dead by now. The bosses in each require strategy.
But yeah, it's a crossover and a video game review, and it's the only official episode of Atop the Fourth Wall that can boast that, and the only ones that will ever boast that. Every other crossover will be a special, and I will always, always, always review comic books, because the show is about comic books. I don't know why. I really don't know why I'm letting myself get away with this. This is a classic scene. The adaptation of the Dark Phoenix saga on the original X-Men animated cartoons is really well done. I have read the original Phoenix saga. I'll say that from my knowledge of X-Men history, because it's just one of those required readings kind of things. And Paul was here. I heard that, Curtis.
Paul Warner? I heard that, Linkara. Oh, goody, a sewer level. What a great metaphor. The game ends by wallowing in
Yep, the complaining about sewer levels. Again, just meant to be a big homage to Spoonie stuff. My own special way of doing a crossover. But and I came up with this finale as well because I wanted to, because we had kind of established Dr. Insano as the new villain for Atop the Fourth Wall, because because my show's storylines are meant to be kind of comic book-esque, and so having an actual encounter between the two was just required. I always love that. Anytime I don't have the comic, I always pretend it's there and just forget that it's there. I always love that. But yes, the encounter with Insano. I realized he didn't bring any science-y stuff with him for the battle, so I just came with this, like, okay, you shoot, like, science lightning bolts out of your hands. Because, you know, he's a scientist. He's got to buff himself up with, like, superpowers and whatnot to make him a more physical match for everybody else. And the thing about doing the dual crossovers, and I did the same thing with the Bimbos in Bimbos BC review, was I like how the crossovers lead into each other. So this one leads into the Warrior #1 review. The Bimbos BC one is led in from the Manimal comic review. And I love this running gag where I can never tell that Spoonie is Dr. Insano. It just like completely baffles me. I like that comic book logic. But Dr. Insano wears goggles. Spoonie doesn't wear goggles.
But you are a woman, eh?
Special thanks to Mars Girl for doing the camera work for this. And she did a great job with it. The science thingies. And then I came up with the idea of I can still kick his ass because I still have the cheat codes enabled. That was fun. Finally got to punch Dr. Insano. You stupid sack of science. Oh yeah, and that graphic of the paper. I figured I would digitally add in later Spoonie's picture, but it always ended up looking dumber than I wanted it to. And so it just has that free-floating image. I tried to have it alter contours of the thing bending, but it didn't really look right. But I just figured, screw it, I just got to get this out there and get it done with. Ah, yes, and my cliffhanger to lead into the Warrior #1 review. Good times. And I think this was before I had an official theme song on the top of the fourth wall. So this really sets up my scrolling ending theme song, though, of course, with inverted white and black. I don't know why I did the white and black. I think it was just to make it kind of my own. Oh yeah, and for some reason the Adamantium Rage music is the main theme from Maximum Carnage on the Genesis. I just love that music. I can't remember using the Punisher and Punisher Genesis game and how I used the footage for that. Yeah, well. Yes, special thanks to everyone who helped out with this crossover. I really appreciated it. I think it helped put me on the map. So, thanks again to Channel Awesome, thanks again to Spoonie, thanks to James Rolfe, thanks to Mars Girl, thanks to everybody. And of course, the obligatory Dr. Insano pratfall. It's just, you gotta do it.